So much on Paige. I'm an alcoholic. And yeah, let's dive on in. So where we're picking up today is on page 47. And we're going to go to the bottom full paragraph. And I don't know if you guys remember, last week we took quite a detour. So we're going to do a little bit of review. You see, as we were going through the book, we would get an asterisk after asterisk after asterisk suggesting that we go to the spiritual experience appendix at the back of the book. And for some reason, I was treating that quite as the penultimatum. I'm like, don't you tell me what to do, asterisks. And for some reason, the only reason is comedic effect. That's why. But because the week before last, it said, please be sure to read. All right, you asked me nicely. So we dove in to the spiritual experience appendix. Now, as we pick up at the bottom full paragraph of page 47, it says, that was great news for us. But what is great news for us? So let's just briefly pop over to the top of the next paragraph, or the previous paragraph. And what I'm going to do is just some very, very quick review of what we're talking about. What is the great news? The great news is a paragraph up where we would probably, if we were here 2 weeks ago, wrote in our book, Step 2, Part 1. Where it says, do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a capital P power greater than myself, greater than ourselves? See, that is step 2, part 1. And as we see step 2 as it's written on the Zoom screen or on the scrolls in meetings or on page 59, it says, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves. And all that is asked of me for step 2, part 1 is, can I believe that there is a power which is greater than me? And that's what it's asking us. Do I believe, or am I even willing to believe? So I don't even have to be at belief. I can just be willing to believe that maybe there could be. And that idea that this is the cornerstone upon which we can build a wonderfully effective spiritual life. And that's what I needed. You see, if I have an understanding of step 1, I understand that I need something that is effective, because I don't have anything that is effective against this illness that is alcoholism. And so the belief that there could be something that is greater than me, that's where we get to begin. And so as we pick up on page 47, bottom paragraph, that was great news to us. The great news is that we can start that simply. The great news is that we don't have to figure out this whole God thing. The great news is I don't have to conceptually get there in my mind. I just need to be willing that there could be something. That's it. And that is great news. It goes on to say, for we had assumed we could not make use of spiritual principles unless we accepted many things on faith which seemed difficult to believe. Now, for so many of us, how often did I get confused and think, I got to get spiritual to work the steps. I got to go have a spiritual awakening. I got to go get God all sorted out. And that's when I can do my inventory. I got to figure out God first. And what it's saying is, no, I've got it backwards. I don't need to figure out this thing. In fact, it is the 12 steps that allow me to have that spiritual awakening. I talk quite a lot about, here's my experience. My experience is that for me, the principles of the 12 steps are not nebulous concepts behind the steps. The principles are the tangible actions of the 12 steps. And when I read the book through that lens, it makes it so clear that what I need to do is I need to take this course of action, and then from that, an experience will emerge. So when it goes on to say, we could not make use of spiritual principles unless we accepted many things on faith which seem difficult to believe, it is comforting to know that I don't have to get God to work the steps or figure it out to work the steps. I work and take the actions of all 12 steps as it's outlined in this book. And then what happens is a spiritual awakening comes over me. I take the actions that, let's be honest, I don't like, I don't believe in, I don't think it's going to help me at all. And I get utterly and radically transformed from the inside out. That is what happens. So it is wonderful to know that I just need to believe that, man, there could be something. And from there, I can get into step 3. And from there, I can take the 4th step, and so on and so forth. I don't need to figure it out. I just need to get busy, get into action. So it says, when people presented us with spiritual approaches, how frequently did we all say, all of us. So this is not, hey, you over there, you agnostic weirdo. It's no, us. We have all had these feelings of agnosticism. We've all felt resistance to, oftentimes people say, the spiritual part of the program, to which I'm like, the program is all spiritual. There's no not spiritual part, not to be pedantic or anything. I usually only pedant with purpose. That was unpurposeful pedantry. That's not the word of the day. As I was saying it, I'm like, that's a red herring for people. Alrighty. So, what it's saying is we will see people, maybe religious people, maybe people that are deeply spiritual, and they have that light that comes on in their eyes. They have a peace about their soul. And maybe we see that in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. We see people who have recovered, where they come into a room and they change the energy of the meeting, and for the better, not when they come into the room and you're like, I got to do some inventory. Not those guys, but the people that come to the meeting and you can feel their peace. You can feel that love. You can sense the light that they bring. And it's like, man, I could do the steps if I had what they had. But what we're saying is, I don't need to have what they have. I need to believe that they have it. And then if I take the course of action that they took, I will get it. Does that make sense? I take the action to get the result. I don't need to have, and I'm not going to have the result at step 2. I just need to believe that the solution exists. It goes on to say, I'm sure it would work if I could only believe as he believes, but I cannot accept as surely true the many articles of faith which are so plain to him. Now, articles of faith are the doctrines of various religions. So different religions will have different pillars of what they believe and what it means to be a follower of that particular faith and religion. And what we're saying is, that's great that people have that. But I don't need to figure that out. And I don't need to have those things. I just need to believe that there are people, and for our purposes, that there are people that are happy and sober in Alcoholics Anonymous, that they have had a spiritual awakening, and that if I do what they did, I will get that result. That's it. I don't got to figure it out. I don't got to get religious overnight or even get religious full stop. I just need to believe that there is an answer and the acknowledgement that I don't have it. It goes on to say, so it was comforting to learn that we could commence at a simpler level. And I want to emphasize that word commence. Commence is to begin. When I first approached the second step, listen, I approached it with a great deal of yikes, the trepidation, the uncertainty, my old ideas, my prejudices, like we all did. But when it says commence at a simpler level, commence means to begin. The second step is not a finish line. And I thought it was the finish line. I thought I would be like, I figured out God and the universe. I'm ready to write some inventory. Again, that's not how this thing goes. Commences to begin. And what are we beginning? We will begin the lifelong process that is these 12 steps as a way of life. And that's what we're beginning. I've got to start with the idea that there could be a solution, but I don't have it in step 2. And that's the simpler level, that this is a beginning, that we're starting. It's the starting blocks of a lifelong race, not the finish line as I thought it was. It goes on to say, besides a seeming inability to accept much on faith, we often found ourselves handicapped by obstinacy, sensitiveness, and unreasoning prejudice. So now what we're diving into is, again, some more barriers that we all bring, or perceived barriers that we all bring to the second step. And here's what they are: obstinacy. Now, I know you guys aren't obstinate, but this little obstinate alcoholic I've known to be that a time or two. And you might be like, what is that? It's stubbornness. It is that like unreasoning stubbornness. And I want to like really be clear. What does obstinacy look like? Because you can tell me stubbornness and I'll be like, but I'm not stubborn. I remember actually my best friend who I would argue with them about like, I'm not stubborn. Give me one example of when I've been stubborn. But you can sense the obstinacy in my arguing with my friend about my lack of stubbornness, you know? But what does it tangibly look like? It looks like I know these steps couldn't help me, despite the living evidence that it's working in the lives of those around me. I know inventory couldn't help. I know how this amends is going to go. I don't need to make it. That's what it looks like. Oh no, there's no way I could help other people. I couldn't sponsor others. I'm a mess. These old ideas, that unwillingness to believe that there could be a solution despite the living evidence of those of us who have recovered, shining that light in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's what that looks like. That's obstinacy. Now, sensitiveness, now that I apologize profusely. I'm about to ruin your day as my day was ruined. See, sensitiveness, I used to joke like, I'm just sensitive, you know, because I was talking about like, you know, I had a dear friend, she's still a dear friend, but I have this dear friend and she pointed out, Paige, sensitiveness is just a synonym for self-centeredness. Whoa, rude. Whoa, don't call me out. It's too early for that. I know for you guys in the UK, you're like, it's not that early, girl. But it's too early to have my covers pulled like that. You see, I think sensitiveness means like crying at dog food commercials, or, you know, like, watching a movie and getting teary-eyed, or, you know, that sort of thing. No, unfortunately, the sensitiveness that we are talking about is I hear something and I immediately make it about me and how I don't like it. Now, I know you guys, especially at this big book study, and when I say things, you guys would never be sensitive, but I know that I've been sensitive a time or two, and I would take things that have nothing to do with me and make it about me. And what's an example of that? Well, an example of that is when I'm in the rooms and I'm wrestling with the second step. And to be honest, I'm wrestling with the second step because I don't have a full understanding of step one. And somebody talks about, man, it is incredible what God has done for me in my life. And I'm like, ew, you're using the G word? Oh, you shouldn't be doing that. Now, I'm not going to say that, but I'm going to think that and judge on the inside. And I know some of you guys cannot relate. You would never, nobody would ever judge anyone who's speaking at the meeting in this very moment. Nobody. Just a reminder, I will take all complaints via either 4-column inventory or carrier pigeon. That's how I will take them. Yeah, absolutely. Give me the columns and give me the birds. Go birds. Woo! Alrighty. So it goes on to say, and unreasoning prejudice. Again, prejudice is to hold on to an old idea. And what is an old idea? Again, just like with the obstinacy, I know it couldn't work. I know it's not going to help. And that unreasoning prejudice is that unwilling to try something new. Again, we're going to talk in this chapter about faith. Oftentimes we confuse faith with certainty. Faith is not certainty. Faith is an open hand willing to have a new experience, an open hand that is willing to reach for the capital R real. That's what faith is. And it says, many of us have been so touchy. Touchy is just another word for sensitive. So people says, well, and actually, it will explain it. It says many of us, not you guys, but somebody like me, have been so touchy that even casual reference to spiritual things made us bristle with antagonism. To bristle is that like we're filled up with and like just, and that antagonism is come fight me, bro. Like that's that antagonism. Like you're talking about God, I'm going to tell you what I think and what I know and what happened to me. And it says this sort of thinking had to be abandoned. And I just want to point out that this is another beautiful example of the book meeting us where we're at. The book is meeting us in our obstinacy. It's not expecting me to not be obstinate. It's meeting me in my sensitiveness. It's meeting me in my unreasoning prejudice. It's meeting me in my touchiness, in my bristling with antagonism. It is meeting me right where I'm at and not expecting me to be anywhere different. But what it's going to do is it's then going to take me where I need to go. And I always like to emphasize this. If this is what a book, the book, Alcoholics Anonymous, can do, is it not possible that that is also what God does? Meets me where I'm at, meeting me in my imperfection, meeting me in my, delusion, my denial, my closed-mindedness, and taking me where I need to go. And so this is where we need to go. This sort of thinking had to be abandoned. Like I tried to abandon some debt, I'm just going to pretend it's not there, abandon, to let go of it utterly and entirely. And this is what I mean when I talk about, and it's what we're going to get into in the bottom half of this paragraph. If I'm struggling with step 2, more often than not, and in my experience, pretty much always, it's really a step 1 issue. And here's how we overcome it. So though some of us resisted, we found no great difficulty in casting aside such feelings, laying aside these things. Now, I also want to point out we're not laying aside some of these issues indefinitely. So if you have religious trauma, so if you have seen people who are spiritual or religious do awful, horrific things in the name of their higher power and they're being manipulative or whatever, we're not laying that aside indefinitely. If things have happened in our life, and of course they have, which feel unfair and which maybe are unfair, that we didn't deserve, we're not laying that aside indefinitely. We will be picking that up again to work through it in the 4th step. I also want to point that out because people would say, you just got to lay it aside. You just got to lay it aside. And some of the stuff that was traumatic, you want me to pretend it didn't happen? No, we're just going to be open to a solution in the 2nd step. And then we're going to move through that stuff in step 4, 4 through 9. That whole process is going to bring about a transformation with those things. But I just got to be open to a solution to get there. So this is what opens us up. This is what helps us to overcome those perceived barriers in the 2nd step. It says, faced with alcoholic destruction, we soon became as open-minded on spiritual matters as we had tried to be on other questions. In this respect, alcohol was a great persuader. It finally beat us into a state of reasonableness. So what opens me up to the 2nd step? An experience with the 1st. A step 1 experience. And I talk about a step 1 experience. A step 1 experience is not that I can never, ever drink again. That's part of it. I have to have that understanding. I need to understand that I have the allergy of the body and there will never be a time in which I can ever safely drink again, but that's not a step 1 experience. A step 1 experience also includes a profound understanding and experience of the obsession of the mind. And when I add that to my understanding of the allergy, this is the step 1 experience. I know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, I can never, ever drink again, but I will. I will drink again. A relapse is imminent, and there's nothing that I can do to stop it. That is my step 1 experience. And when I can understand that I have to stay sober, I need to stay sober, I want to stay sober, but I can't stay sober. That's when I see that I'm there, when I see that I'm in that place of hopelessness, and then I'm willing to reach, man, is there not an answer? Is there not a solution? And from that place, I'm willing to grab hold of, you know what? Maybe there's something. I don't know what it is, but I see people coming to ODAAT, and I see that they're happy, and I see that they're free, and I see they've got a light, and I see they've got a peace, and maybe if I do what they did, I can experience what they've got. That's all that is asked of me. And it says, sometimes this was a tedious process. We hope no one else will be prejudiced for as long as some of us were. And again, to be prejudiced is to hold on to old ideas of an experience I've not yet had. I know the steps couldn't help. I've never done them. Or the steps didn't work for me. We didn't actually do all of them, like working with others, daily prayer, daily inventory, daily meditation, making all of our amends. That's prejudice. I know it couldn't help. I know it couldn't work. And again, what opens me up is that step one experience. So prejudice is to hold on to an old idea that I've not had a real experience with. And I love that it talks about alcohol being the great persuader and alcohol beating us into a state of reasonableness. In tradition 9 and the 12 and 12, it talks about Alcoholics Anonymous has only two disciplinarians, great love and great suffering. We need no others. There's no AA police, and even though my book is hardcover, it's actually so old I couldn't even beat the willingness and responses if I wanted to. In AA, we use our words. We don't use the book and hit people. No. But I couldn't even if I wanted to. And it's great love and great suffering. My responsibility to those that are new, my responsibility to those that are suffering is great love. And of course, that great love is the welcoming, is the including, is the reaching out, is the supporting. It is that. And also, it is to be a demonstration of the solution that we have, a demonstration of the spiritual awakening, and a demonstration that this course of action really works. That is my responsibility to those that are new, to those that are suffering, to those that are in pain, to those that do not know that there is a way out. That is my responsibility, and that is great love. Great suffering is none of my business. Great suffering is the responsibility of alcoholism. To take me to the end of myself. To take me to the end of my ideas, my plans, my designs, my way. And I can do it drunk or sober. But when I see that I've got nothing against this thing, that I can't stop this thing, man, that's when I'm willing to try anything. And that's often where I need to get. And what is important to understand is we have that solution. We have that way out, and this is the hill that I die on. This is where I'm pedantic, is that it is available to each and every one of us. There is not a person here who cannot recover. There is not a person here who cannot have a deep and profound spiritual experience. If you're here today and you're struggling, if you're here today and you're hurting, I want you to know it is available for you. It's available for each and every one of us. And it goes on to say, the reader, and actually before I do that, it says we hope no one else will be prejudiced for as long as some of us were. Each and every one of us who has had a spiritual awakening and grows and deepens our spiritual awakening, seeks more awakenings. Each and every one of us have had the experience of, man, why did it take me so long? Why did it take me so long? I don't know a single person that goes and looks back and was like, you know what? I should have sat on some more 4-step work. You know what? I really should have avoided that amends. Not a single person. And if each and every one of us, our lived experiences dive in, go after it, seek that experience, I'd encourage us all to do it. Go after it. So now we're transitioning. It says the reader may still ask why he should believe in a capital P power greater than himself. And I love this because this for me is another example of the book meeting us where I'm at. Where it's like, not that anyone like Harry Thibault would refer to alcoholics as immature or like king baby or anything like that. But you can almost hear me as like an alcoholic that's like, okay, well, I mean, still, give me one good reason, just like a child that's having actually, there's an expression in the UK. We don't have it in North America, but we should. It's throwing the rattle out of the pram. You know what I mean? I want to throw the rattle out the pram. And so it says, the reader may still ask why he should believe in a capital P power greater than himself. We think there are good reasons. Let us have a look at some of them. So I threw the rattle out the pram. And by the way, for the North Americans, the rattle is like a baby rattle, and the pram is the, what do we call it in North America? It's not the push chair. That's what you guys call it in the UK. I forgot my English. The baby carrier, the stroller. It's the stroller. Yeah, I got there. Man, it's a weird one today. Throwing the rattle or the binky even out the stroller. Like we were maybe acting perhaps immaturely, and yet the book meets us there and is taking us where we need to go. Again, I don't need to be perfect. If I'm willing to follow these directions, I will be lovingly taken to where I need to go. Toys at the playpen at the crib. Yeah, absolutely. We are met with love. we are met with kindness. And is that not an indication of the type of higher power that is available here in Alcoholics Anonymous? And so where we're transitioning into is this idea of what I like to call some of the spiritual jujitsu or spiritual judo, either or, the martial arts section. Karate chops. Clearly, I don't do martial arts. Rob does, actually. I don't, because I have the form of I need to have my socks on at all times, so I'm not doing the barefoot thing. And that's the only reason. There's no other reason I'm not doing a martial art with a whole lot of kicking. Some of you get why that's funny. I'm disabled. Anywho, focus. It goes on to say, yeah, put down the ducky. It goes on to say, when it's talking about the reader may still ask why he should believe in a power greater than himself. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the barriers that we have to belief in God. And what they're going to do is they're going to use the force of my barrier, the force of my argument, and we're going to flip it on its head. So where we're going to start is it's not scientific. And we're going to use science to flip it on its head. I can't see God, and we're going to flip that on its head. I need something rational, and we're going to flip that on its head. And so that's what we're doing. Just like in martial arts, when they use the force of the attack against the person, they do the little flippy thing. Focus. Actually, while I'm on this little tangent, I will say there is a beautiful metaphor about the spiritual journey through Alcoholics Anonymous, like being a martial artist. Again, I just want to be very clear. If somebody wants to leave the meeting, hear this and then you can go. We don't hit each other. I don't want that to be the takeaway. That's not the takeaway. No hitting. We use our words. We use prayer. We use inventory. No meditation. No hitting. But the beautiful metaphor about martial arts is when we start out in martial arts, we're learning, and we got those little white belts, and we learn from the black belts. We learn from the people that are further along the path. And then as we progress, we start to get, and different martial arts have different color belts. So I don't know. We start getting a little orange belt or a little blue belt. Like we start getting our belts. And as we learn, what do? We need people that are at our same level to spar with. So to have those pillars that are, as I'm making amends, that they're also making amends. As I'm starting to sponsor, they're starting to sponsor. Those pillars who are at some of those same places along that I can grow with, that I can learn with. And we still need those black belts that we get to learn from. But then in martial arts, you'll see that you progress, you go back and you start helping those new white belts. And that's what it's like in Alcoholics Anonymous. I need to learn from others. I need to work with others, and I need to help others. And I get to learn this spiritual way of life through that practice. So let's get into the spiritual jujitsu. I got my karate chops. Woo! And yeah, if you didn't know I didn't do martial arts, I'm sure you are not shocked. All right, so it says the practical individual. Actually, let me read this how I like to read it with my transatlantic accent. The practical individual of today, see, is a stickler for facts and results, see? It's like a little newsy sort of thing, yeah. And so what it's saying is like, in our modern century, see, we're all about those facts. We're about science and logic, see? That's what it's saying. It's like, hey, we like science. We like logic. Give me evidence, right? And it goes on to say, nevertheless, the 20th century readily accepts theories of all kinds, provided they are firmly grounded in fact. So this whole God thing is just a theory, and you can't prove it. Well, we have lots of theories, and in science, a theory is something that is rooted in fact. And this theory of God, or a power that is greater than myself, we're going to see that it is rooted in fact. And if all you hear today, the fact is that it works because there are sober, happy, recovered alcoholics who have taken this course of action. That is evidence. But it goes on to say, we have numerous theories, for example, about electricity. let me tell you, when my sponsor was like, because I was struggling with the second step when I got here, and my first ever sponsor, she was like, read We Agnostics. And so I read it by myself, and listen, at this point, I'm like, what does electricity have to do with me not drinking? Like, what does this have to do with anything? So let me explain it. Stick with us. It says, nevertheless, the 20th century readily accepts theories of all kinds, provided they are firmly grounded in fact. We have numerous theories about, for example, about electricity. Everybody believes them without a murmur of doubt. Why this ready acceptance? Simply because it is impossible to explain what we see, feel, direct, and use without a reasonable assumption as a starting point. So, what are the big arguments that we are bringing to the table that is implied? Well, the big argument is it's not scientific and I can't see God. That is the argument. And in Bill Wilson's lifetime, the society that he was in went from using gas and oil, like lanterns and candles and that sort of thing, to electricity being readily available and abundant. And so he would have seen that happen in his lifetime. So for us, what we're saying is, I can't see God. And we're going to see that, yes, absolutely we can. But if we recall that what is my dilemma is an alcoholic lack of power, and all I'm being asked to believe in is that there could be power. That's why electricity is used. We're talking about power. Power is what I need. And here's the thing. Except for those brief moments where we see static electricity or we see lightning, we actually do not see electricity. We see the results of electricity. And is that not the case here? Right? Is that not the case? I don't see God, but I do. Please believe it. You will see God all over the place. You start looking for God. But I see the results of God. And what is the undeniable result of this power? Again, sober, recovered alcoholics. And we're going to talk about how we can have a deeper experience with that in a couple weeks, because it's going to take me a while to get there, because I'm moving, but we're moving at a pace that is slow. So not a quick one. So that's the start. Power. Right? I don't need to figure out, when my phone gets low, I don't need to figure out what the amperage is, what the ohms do. I don't need, because I got to figure out my own personal ohm, but I don't got to figure out the ohms in the cables. I just plug into that power and I see the results of it. That's what we're trying to do. And so the starting place is that electricity exists. I don't need to see electricity. I don't need to be an electrician. I don't need to figure it out. But I can see the undeniable results of electricity. And the fact that we can see and hear each other means that we all have accessed some sort of electricity. And is it not possible that there might be another power? And when it says, simply because it is impossible to explain what we see, feel, direct, and use without a reasonable assumption as a starting point. Again, the reasonable assumption with electricity is that electricity exists. The reasonable assumption for an alcoholic is that there could be a power greater than myself. That's what we're talking about. Yeah, I'm going to talk about the wind here in a moment. Absolutely. And here's the thing, just like that, it's like, I can't see God. And I promise you, if you go out and you invite a power greater than yourself and you watch for that power, you will see it everywhere. Some of y'all know I like birds. There's a lot of times when I'm working with sponsees and they're like, I can't see birds. And so I know there's at least two of you that are like, I wish I didn't. I don't like them. I gotcha. But that I don't see birds. And I'll ask, well, sponsees, when they're like, I can't see God, it's like, well, let me ask you something. Now, this is working with my locality. In my locality, I'll ask, how many magpies did you see today? How many red-breasted nuthatches did you see? Birds have funny names. and actually, I'll move it over to the UK. How many Eurasian blue tits did you see? Rob's going to be like, Paige, what's your profanity? how many, and you guys got robins as well. So how many robins did you see? And it's like, I don't know. I wasn't looking for birds. But when you start looking, you will see. God is there, but I'm just not looking. And when we begin to clear away the stuff between me and this power, by the way, that is the purpose of the 12 steps, to clear away the stuff inside of me that is blocking me from this power. That's the point. I will begin to see and to see more clearly. And we feel God. And Rob's right, like the wind. We can't see the wind, but we see the wind moving. And we see the impact of the wind. And we can feel the wind. And how often does the sense of a power greater than ourselves start as a sense, start as a feeling? And then it says, direct and use. We can begin to direct this power. Just like I direct power when I turn on the light switch, and I'm not going to do that because that's the big light. And I don't want the big light on. It's a little too overstimulating. But I'll direct that power when I turn on the light. And I direct that power when I plug in my phone. And I direct that power. And we get to direct that power in our lives and use that power in our lives. But to be able to do that, again, the point that they are making, I just need to believe that a power exists. It goes on to say, and that a reasonable assumption is the starting point. Our starting point is step 2. That's where we're starting. There could be a power. Everybody nowadays believes in scores of assumptions for which there is good evidence, but no perfect visual proof. Again, we're dabbling down on the science of it's not scientific and I can't see God. And it's like, hey, wait a minute. Don't we believe in a whole bunch of things that we cannot see with our bare eyes? That's the spiritual judo that's happening here. And in fact, watch for it, we getting flipped. It says, and does not science demonstrate that visual proof is the weakest proof? And what does that mean? If you guys remember back to chemistry, you would have to combine different solvents and solutes, and another word that I don't remember. I probably drank away those brain cells that had that memory of chemistry class. But you would combine these different things, and the color would not change. And what would you do? You'd probably have to put in a pH strip to measure whether the acidity or the base changed. And listen, you were probably given a whole lot of instructions in chemistry class. Do not drink it. I promise you the taste would have changed. I'm just kidding. Some of y'all need to listen. I'm a warning label sort of person. It's like, don't touch it. Oh, but I want to touch it because you told me not to, right? So it's like that. But visually to look at that the thing that we made in the little beaker, it visually did not change. But there was a dramatic change that happened that we just could not see. And it goes on to say it is being constantly revealed. And I love the use of the word revealed because that's often what it is with God. I am uncovering, I am revealing the truth that was there the whole time. And it is being constantly revealed as mankind studies the material world, that outward appearances are not inward reality at all. So that idea that what I see is not really what's going on. And how true is that for us as alcoholics? Outward appearances are not inward reality at all. The masks and the walls and the image that I'm trying to make, everything's great. Everything's great. Paige, why are you behind the dumpster with wet pants? Everything's great. I'm fine, The outward reality that I am trying to present to the world is not what's really going on within. By the way, we can do that drunk or sober. Right? I can put up those masks. I can put up those walls. And if that is true, could there not be something more? So that direct linkage of outward appearances are not inward reality. I can't see God. Well, we're going to be given another very literal scientific example. It says, to illustrate The prosaic steel girder is a mass of electrons whirling around each other with incredible speed. These tiny bodies are governed by precise laws, and these laws hold true throughout the material world. Science tells us so. And boy, isn't that simple? It makes so much sense, you guys don't even need me to explain it. It's so obvious. I'm just kidding. It's one of those things that I was like, you lost me at electricity. And I was like, I am about to lose my mind. What? Like, what is a prosaic steel girder? What does that even mean? So, the word, as Rob put in the chat, the word prosaic means average or basic. And a steel girder is simply a metal I-beam. And if you keep in mind, Bill Wilson, he's across the Hudson River in New Jersey, and he's dictating the big book, and Ruth is just typing away and probably doing shorthand and doing all that stuff as Bill's dictating. And he would look across the Hudson, and what would he see? Probably the skyscrapers of Manhattan as they are being built. And what they would be built with is those metal I-beams. And if you've ever seen that famous picture of, if it's not Chicago, where it actually was, people are going to be upset. But those iron workers sitting on that metal beam eating their lunch, wherever it was in the United States, I don't have any preference, but they're eating, what they're sitting on is a metal I-beam. And because when I get a little ounce of free time, apparently I don't utilize it well, this is what I did. So meet our visual representation, Prosy, the prosaic steel girder. This is our guy, Prosy. So Prosy, we look at this metal I-beam, and what we see is this static, unmoving hunk of metal. And we see that and we believe it, and we're like, yeah, obviously it's holding up like the Empire State Building. Of course, that's what it is. But science tells us that if we look a little deeper, this solid, unmoving I-beam is actually made up of these things called atoms. I've not actually seen an atom. Anyone here has seen it? We've seen pictures of them. We've seen videos maybe, but I never put a gander on an atom. Never seen one. And here's the thing about atoms, is there is a science that is given to us at our level, because apparently they don't even really do this. It's more complicated than that. But an atom is made up of a nucleus, and in that nucleus, it has protons and neutrons. But what whirls around the nucleus are these things called electrons, and they're moving around at incredible speed. So this metal I-beam that we see, and we say, man, that thing's not moving. That thing is solid. That thing is unmoving. There's actually movement within it that we cannot visually see with our eyes. And here's another little judo flip, a jujitsu hold, as you were, is that there's actually more space between the atoms than there are atoms themselves. And that's like what quantum physics is about, like that space between the atoms. But that, to look at it, like hold up my phone, it's solid, it's unmoving. But science tells me that if I were to go a little bit deeper, there would be these atoms. And they have so much movement. And there's space between the atoms. And I'm then able to change my mind. So I've never seen an atom. I mean, you guys know I would poke it. If you gave me an atom, I'd be like, boop, yeah, I want to boop the atom. And I believe that. I am able to change my mind. And so when it says science tells us so, we have no reason to doubt it. We have no reason to doubt that, because we're starting with that as a reasonable assumption, even though I can't lay eyes on it. It goes on to say, when, however, the perfectly logical assumption is suggested that underneath the material world and life as we see it, there is capital A, capital P, capital G, capital C, capital I, an all-powerful, guiding, creative intelligence. So underneath what we see, there's this all-powerful, this guiding, this creative intelligence right there. Our perverse streak comes to the surface, and we laboriously set out to convince ourselves it isn't so. So we take all this work and all this effort to prove, no. There could be nothing beneath that, or there could be nothing that makes these things follow laws. Now, bear with me. If I were to take, and I'm not going to do this because I've threatened my phone so much during this study, but if I were to take my phone and drop it from the same height, it will fall at the same rate every single time. That's how we're able to have things like satellites and rockets, and like there's so much science in physics, these laws that you can measure, and you will get that same answer every single time. Well, if there's that, is it possible that there could be something beneath that? And an interesting thing is plants tend to grow based on the Fibonacci number sequence so that the leaves don't overshadow each other. Could there not be something beneath that? These laws and forces. Every time I take, which I don't regularly, just hang out with some hydrogen atoms, but every time I take 2 hydrogen atoms and I combine it with 1 oxygen atom, every single time I will get a water molecule without fail. And if I take that same water molecule, now this is sometimes altitude dependent, but if I take that same water molecule and I raise its temperature to 100 degrees Celsius, apologies for the Americans, to 100 degrees Celsius, every single time it will turn into a gas. And if I take that down to 0 degrees Celsius, that's cold. That's 32. That's 32 for the Americans. Every single time it will turn into a solid. So is it not possible that with these laws, these material things, is it possible that beneath that there is a power with which we cannot see? I was supposed to grab something earlier and I forgot. So, whoopsies, drop that. It goes on to say, it says right there, our perverse streak comes to the surface and we laboriously set out to convince ourselves it isn't so. We read wordy books and indulge in windy arguments or listen to a lot of antagonistic podcasts. I know you guys wouldn't. That there's no God, this is my podcast, that sort of thing. I have a sponsor that loves podcasts, and whenever I make a podcast joke, he feels particularly called out. I'm not calling nobody out. It goes on to say, we read wordy books and indulge in windy arguments, thinking we believe this universe needs no God to explain it. Were our contentions true, it would follow that life originated out of nothing, means nothing, and proceeds nowhere. And so what it's saying is, if our contentions were true, this whole thing was meaningless. Life is meaningless. There is no meaning. And there's a later part in the chapter that's a better place, but I always bring it up now. This was my aunt, and my aunt was a professor at the University of Acadia, and she studied in the electrochemistry division and worked in that division. This is her obituary, and she probably saw it with her eyeballs, an atom and an electron and stuff. She probably, because I'll tell you, she was type A. Clearly, I'm a little B over here. She was on it. She probably didn't boop one. But I'll read you some of this where it says, she graduated at the University of McGill for the Canadians. That's a smarty pants school. She rose readily to the rank of professor at the University of Acadia, head of the University of Chemistry department. She studied a broad range of topics from biochemistry to theoretical chemistry. She was the Department of Chemistry, co-supervised graduate students. She was a part of the Natural Science and Engineering Research Council of Canada, all these things. And it's I don't know what these acronyms mean. You know what I mean? Just a super de-duper smarty pants. Can't relate. But what happened is she was diagnosed with cancer, and she knew that it was terminal. And because she's a person that has an obituary that looks like this, she planned out her funeral, her service. She planned out all that sort of stuff. And in her funeral card, she has, "The Lord is my shepherd, and be still my soul." And it's a reminder that I am not smarter than her. A lot of times we hear that there's nobody too dumb for AA, but there's a lot of people too smart. That's not my experience. In fact, my experience is there's a lot of people where we think we're too smart. And if somebody who saw the world at that precise a level can believe that there is a power greater than herself, who am I to argue? You know what I'm saying? So it goes on, and I'll wrap up. I'm pushing it, Neil. I know. Instead of regarding ourselves, it's better to leave off for that one. Instead of regarding ourselves as intelligent agents, spearheads of God's ever-advancing creation, we agnostics and atheists chose to believe that our human intelligence was the last word, the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and end of all. Rather vain of us, wasn't it? My human intelligence is the last word, and yet I can't keep myself sober based on it. We'll touch that paragraph again. Over to you. I'm pushing it. 2 minutes to wrap up. Sorry, Neil.